tonight's President's Choice Award is broadcaster Tom Calhoun. Tom, make your way. Belleville native, SIU grad, in the industry for 47 years, and well, Ron's going to tell you the rest because he raised him as a child at KMOS.
1986. After about 2 decades on television, I wound up at a radio station called KXOK, AM 630 on your radio dial. We didn't know at the time that you couldn't hear the damn thing at Lambert Field, but that's... But I went there because Dan Kelly, the best hockey announcer God ever put behind a microphone, also went there. So I went there to do blues games with Kelly and Joe Nicoletti. And a woman named Susie Matthew. Susie, for all practical purpose, ran the blues except on the ice. She ran the front office, she ran a lot. And we got a phone call from Susie saying that our public address announcer has quit or left. Anyway, we need somebody. So Dan and I said, we got a young guy here with a big voice named Tom Calhoun. Why don't you take a listen to him? She did. 1,511 games later, here he sits. Consecutive games, yeah. Don't you ever get sick, for goodness sakes?
Haven't missed one yet.
You haven't missed one. Have you ever come close?
Oh, I'd say probably 5 or 6 times after I got 400 or 500 games in a row. I probably shouldn't have gone in. I either had laryngitis or I just really wasn't feeling that great. But somehow I managed to get through it. I remember one time you were talking about Susie Matthew. We were still at the old arena. And Susie used to sit up in the press box, and I was down at ice level where I sit for all my games. And I had the flu, and I was deathly sick. And between the first and second period, I went back to the restroom and lost dinner. And
thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, and so I called upstairs to Susie. I said, Susie, I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish the game. And she said, well, let me know if you can't go on, and we'll send somebody down there. I said, somebody who? She said, I don't know. Well, we'll figure something out. But I've managed to get through every game ever since. So
1,511 and still counting.
And before I forget, you know, there are some people in your career who see more in you than you do yourself. And the man sitting over here is one of those people for me. He saw that I had something that was worth promoting in our business, and Ron and Dan were very instrumental back in those days of getting me from here to the next level and putting me in front of the right people, and I thank you for that.
Thank you. You're welcome. By the way, the glint off of that ring is really getting to me. This is his Stanley Cup ring, folks.
And I have a special guest with me here tonight who is responsible, I think, partly for those of us who get to wear our Stanley Cup rings. Layla, would you come up, please?
Well, she's going to come up later. We're going to bring her. Oh, well, she can come up now if you want.
Okay, you're going to do this later?
Yeah, we're going to introduce later.
Layla Anderson's here. You'll get to meet her in a minute.
Just a couple of minutes. Who is your favorite player?
I get asked that a lot, and I really can't narrow it down to one. If I had to say 2 or 3 names, I'd say Brett Hull, because I announced every goal that he ever scored in a Blues uniform. We went Blues! Yeah, that guy. And
yeah.
And
is he sober yet? I don't know. I'm sorry. Forgive me for
grabs.
saying that.
Yeah. And I always liked Al McInnes, because to me, Al was and is the Stan Musial of hockey. And Stan was always my hero as a kid. And Al conducts himself the same way and is just a prince of a gentleman and was a great hockey player.
Pronunciations. I had never had problems with the Russian names because I think they're pretty easy to pronounce. But I always had some problems with the French Canadians and some of the Czechoslovakian or the European players. What about pronunciations? How much do you work on it?
Well, if you see a name that you don't recognize or haven't run into before, you have to do your homework on it, and
I know that, but
either talk to the player themselves or talk to the public relations people from the other team and get it. The one name that over the years I had the worst problem with is we were doing a preseason game in Kansas City several years ago, and they had this new player on the Chicago Blackhawks who the Blues were playing, and I hadn't seen this guy before, and I couldn't do my homework because of the travel involved. And so this guy gets a penalty early in the game, and I said, Blackhawks penalty, holding, 2 minutes for holding on number 33, Dustin Byfuglian. And of course it's Dustin Byfuglien. It looks like Dustin Byfuglien if you look at the name, but somebody called down and said, hey, they pronounce that Byfuglien. I said, you gotta be kidding me. There's 14 consonants and 3 vowels in that. But anyway, that's the one name that I kind of botched up over the years. But yeah, I think I always credit my upbringing in Belleville and the school system with helping me understand the language and understand how words are put together and how people from various backgrounds pronounce their names in certain ways. And, it's, I guess, just something that I attribute to my education.
you may have the worst seat in the house, really, right down at Iceland, where you can't see a lot of times. But I'll bet you hear a lot of stuff from the penalty boxes, don't you?
Yeah. There are some things like that are worth telling stories about. But what I always tell people is, these guys in hockey have been playing against one another since they were little kids. And usually what happens is if they get in a fight out on the ice, they'll go over and sit in the penalty box and they'll yell back and forth things like, hey, what are you doing after the game? You want to go out and get a beer? Or how's your mom doing? I haven't seen her in a long time. So it's usually more like that than it is,
You're kidding
I want
me.
to take your head
You're
off.
kidding me.
Oh, well, I heard Chris Chelios one time threatened to kill a guy on the Blues team, but, that doesn't happen all that often.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a couple of awards for Tom Calhoun. First of all, Tom Morris, who is in charge of the off-ice officials, is coming up, and he has a plaque for your 1500th game. And
I want to thank the off-ice guys who are here tonight.
Yeah.
They're my buddies at the game all the time. We sit together at the pregame meal, and I really thank them for their support and coming out here tonight.
Layla, come up here. This is a young lady that was an inspiration to the St. Louis Blues in winning the Stanley Cup. Layla.
Let's hear it for Layla.
Layla, I need a hug too, kiddo. I need a hug too. Thanks for coming.
How you doing?
Really good.
Now, if you didn't see it, Layla got to introduce the Blues players at the All-Star game last
And
week.
she did. I thought she
and tell
upstaged
the
you.
story about how you practiced.
Well, a lot of people do ask me if you gave me some pointers, and I do say yes, because I have been going to Blues games since I was around 5, and I've only listened to this guy ever since. So that's kind of in my blood now, and that's kind of how I gave the little twist when announcing the All-Stars. And I do think... Introducing number 27, Alex Pietrangelo!
Sounded like me, didn't it? So, you look great. You feeling good?
Yes, I feel really good.
And we are so thankful that she got the blood marrow match that she did, and everything's going well.
Yes.
I got an official Layla Anderson autographed baseball card, or hockey card tonight, I should say. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
And I want to thank my family, my wife Barb, my sister Bonnie and her husband Mark, my cousin Gary, and all the people at my table tonight for coming out and supporting me. Thanks, gang. Thank you, Mr. Jacober. You'll always be Mr. Jacober to me, that's for sure.